and welcome to the Engineer Exchange, a podcast where we exchange experiences, insights and knowledge with experts in the industry. We're really excited to get started. This is our first podcast and we're looking at International Women in Engineering Day and the topic of the year, which is Make Safety Seen. So we're talking today about ill-fitting PPE and the barriers that women face within the industry. So we're pleased to be joined by four fabulous guests and I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Elodie.
Hi, I'm Elodie. So I'm Elodie Arsico. I'm an Associate Director for Water Management. I trained as a highways engineer and I'm still seconded as a highways engineer. So I spend quite a lot of time on site, really, on construction site.
Hi, I'm Rach Stewart. I'm the Area Manager, Utilities and Streetworks team for Waterman Aspen. I'm seconded as Programme Manager, which involves visiting sites, currently working in the water industry, but previously in the gas industry.
Awesome. Sophie?
Hi, I'm Sophie. I've been working for Waterman Aspen for 5 years and I'm currently seconded to Tees Works as a technician.
And hi, my name's Maggie. I am a HSEQ manager in oil and gas.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So let's get started. So according to a 2016 report from the Trades Union Congress, 57% of women in the survey reported that their PPE hindered their work either sometimes or significantly. So based on your personal experiences, what do you guys think about this statistic? And we'll start with Elodie, if that's okay.
I think I'm not that surprised, to be fair. I think many of us can be quite short or small stature and we get given PPEs that are far too big anyway. So, I'm not really surprised. I think, sleeves that are too long and shoes that are too big obviously doesn't help when you try and work on site, really. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm similar, actually, yeah. I think, there's just the sort of blatant lack of regard for our size, make do with the smallest men's we've got in stores, and that's normally a medium, or that's what it used to be like. I have seen improvements over sort of the past sort of 14 years, significantly more in sort of the past sort of 5 or 6 years. I think I've seen the greatest improvements, but there's still a far to go with the, pushing it forward with the women's clothing.
I am both surprised and not surprised. So I'm surprised that we're still finding these statistics. If you roll out some more questions to women, you're going to get the same responses. But also, it's not something that we need to should shy away from. We need to get these statistics out more. We are not little men, so we need our own clothing. And giving a woman unisex clothing is still going to hinder them because it's just men's but smaller and often built to a lower standard while still meeting like an EN rating. It's still not appropriate, so the materials aren't breathable, they're not comfortable. For example, if you're wearing a unisex boot, that's still built to a male proportion. But just smaller. Yeah. So our centre of gravity is in a different place to a man's centre of gravity. So you'll often find that women wearing these clothes will have problems with getting fungal infections in their feet, back problems, shin splints, problems like muscular issues. And sometimes they're too heavy as well. And so you find that you'll get a neck problem because your shoes are too heavy. So I think we've got a long way to go with it, yeah. And this is why PPE suppliers should be looking at these statistics and thinking, I could fix that. And they should be jumping all over it to get that fixed.
Sophie, what do you think?
I do think it's a surprising statistic, but probably because it's not an issue I've ever considered.
Interesting.
I don't personally go out on site massive amounts and I've just ordered a unisex medium, which is probably a bit big. And if I was working in that every day, maybe it would cause a bit more of an issue. So I do feel for women that work on site and have to wear things for 8 hours a day that don't fit.
Yeah. What's your statistics? Is it 69%? You said?
It's 57% of women in the survey, yeah.
I'm surprised it isn't more, to be fair.
It really depends. If you're a woman, like quite tall woman, it might actually be okay sometimes.
Yeah.
And like me, 5 feet, that would fit really.
I think it's different for different people.
Exactly,
Isn't it?
yeah,
And that's the same in all.
Yeah.
But I didn't know interesting about the boot, and because I managed to eventually, when I first started, I think I had to wear boots that were 2 sizes too big. Eventually got a size 6, and my colleague got a size 4. But I'm guessing they were either unisex or male, and I didn't realise about the centre of gravity. So yes, they did.
Yeah.
They were smaller, so they were better, but they were still uncomfortable to wear, and that obviously explains why.
And if you're wearing them all day, then
Yeah,
it's going to be
definitely.
painful, isn't it?
Definitely.
And what I find fascinating is that companies all over the UK are providing PPE to women that doesn't fit adequately. And the PPE regs would say that then you're not deemed to be safe.
Yeah.
Because your PPE has to fit and it has to be appropriate. So if your PPE is too big or too small or it's not made for you, then how can we say that we're reasonably protecting women?
And with big shoes, you can
very
trip over
disappointing.
anything. You're
Yeah,
not comfortable to like climb over something.
Definitely,
Yeah.
Very
I just wanted to touch
unsafe.
back again on the statistic as well. You've got to think about how that questionnaire was received. So I work with a lot of women who are quite happy to wear things that don't fit them because they don't want to let their company down. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be seen as hysterical by bringing up this issue again because they might have raised it with a line manager or their company and they've been met with blank stares or a bit of a negative attitude. Or they believe that there isn't anything there for them because they don't know. So they think, well, what's the point in saying, actually,
not going to change
my
it.
PPE is not suitable and it causes me problems because I've said it before and no one's listened to me.
Yeah, you don't want to be seen as a troublemaker or...
Yep.
Or you
And again,
kind of
that's another one that...
or you kind of give up, don't you? You've said it before and you didn't get anywhere. You've said it before, you didn't get anywhere. So you just think, well,
It is what
you know, it is what it is, and that's what some women will say. I'm not saying condoning that is not the right thing we should be doing, but that's what some women will be doing.
It's difficult to speak up about something that's not necessarily everyone agrees with.
Especially in a male-dominated environment, it's very difficult.
And this podcast is a wonderful example of why you shouldn't stop saying things.
Yeah.
So I've been saying things in the oil and gas industry since I was 27, so nearly 10 years, and have consistently been met with mocking or blank stares or having to prove it. And it actually made me think, after being knocked back so many times consistently, that I was talking about something that nobody thought was a serious issue. Maybe I was going too hard on the issue. And it's taken you guys to contact me about it to make me think, oh, actually, there just isn't enough people saying the same thing. And so the people I'm talking to can't see round corners for women because they're not women.
Yeah. I
And
think
this is why
this is really good because it's just
so
about
important.
sitting here and sharing everyone's experiences. And it's good to hear, Sophie, that you've maybe not necessarily experienced some of those issues, and that's really positive as well.
Yeah.
So
But I do tend to think that maybe you don't consider that there is an issue there. You start a new secondment, a job, and somebody comes to order the PPE that you don't know. You just want to fit in. You don't want to stand out. And, you know, you might ask, oh, can I have a lady's size 10? But they don't have that. It's just, we don't have those sizes. So I'll go for a medium because I don't know how small the small is going to be. You don't want to be embarrassed wearing something that doesn't fit and is tight. So you end up with medium, which is quite large. And I am taller, so I don't have the struggle with the length, but it is quite baggy.
Absolutely. And because we're in a male-dominated industry, especially when you start in your career, you want to fit in. You want to be part of them. So you don't want to be like standing out asking for something else again and be like, oh my God, where are we going to find this? Why is she again asking for something? You just like, yeah, thank you, that will be fine. And just do like everyone else. And you sometimes look like a clown on site because what you have doesn't fit you.
And a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many people don't even know that standard PPE is built for men. They just think that because it's PPE, then it's appropriate. They don't realise actually why it's built the way that it is. They just know that it's their last line of defence. So you put it on, not realising that it's not appropriate. You got to look at like procurement teams. And, you know, what are they looking at when they're buying PPE? A lot of your procurement team will never work on site. They'll never go to a site or see a site. so they can't put the science behind what they're purchasing, so they wouldn't know.
Yeah, and obviously your day-to-day job is a HSEQ manager, so you must have obviously a lot more knowledge and experience of this because this is your day-to-day. Like, what sort of personal experiences have you had with this?
All sorts of loads. So I'm quite fortunate that I'm quite obviously a woman and have women's proportions. So I very quickly got to grips with the fact that the care I was being given, although it was high-end industry standard for oil and gas, which is fantastic and it should be, it wasn't suitable for me. And being a young woman going into a male-dominated industry and being the only plant-based woman across every single site, it was very intimidating for me to point out that my PPE wasn't appropriate, didn't fit me, and I quite often looked like I was maybe wearing my dad's clothes to work, which then undermines any message that I'm trying to give. And as a health and safety practitioner, a lot of what I do, trying to keep sites compliant and safe and keeping everyone safe and happy, comes from my delivery. And if my delivery verbally is spot on, but visually I'm not representing health and safety, the message is just, it's lost on the people that you're giving it to. So it's quite debilitating. And then it's embarrassing as well. So when I've asked for women's PPE, I've had to write a case study to explain to a company, why do I need PPE that fits? And I tried a very gentle approach and it wasn't suitable. So I did have to bring up very, very uncomfortable, awkward conversations to get a message across, which fortunately for me didn't trouble me to be in your face about the topic.
But it would for some.
It would for some,
That's the issue, isn't it? You know, not everybody feels comfortable speaking up.
No, and I quite often will go back to the old nurse's uniform. So when nursing was traditionally a woman's role, that PPE was a dress or a skirt and a shirt. When men came into being nurses, we would never expect a man to wear that outfit. Although they could and it would fit them and probably be quite comfortable and freeing, we wouldn't expect them to because we're already aware that there's a lack of dignity by insisting on that. Whereas that doesn't happen the other way around because maybe culturally or how we're socialised is that women are quite often socialised to put up and shut up. And if it fits and it's on and it fastens, then it's right. And that is just fundamentally incorrect. I've had PPE where it fits around my bottom but doesn't fit on anything else, and I've been caught on door handles and been quite thrown back by being caught on a door handle, which puts me at risk. So that PPE wasn't appropriate. I've had to roll it up at the bottom, and then I've had wet feet all day because my overalls have touched the floor, which have then soaked into my boots, which have soaked into my socks. But nobody else on the site is having that issue. So there's I could go on about it.
That's...
But I think it's important for people to consider that your light eye protection is built for a European male's face. Ear protection is built for a European adult male's ear canal, which statistically is much larger than women's. Then you've got your hard hats, which are adjustable, but often a woman really should have a chin strap to make sure it's definitely going to stay on. And then the fitting of coveralls, you can buy very easily and cheaply women's coveralls, which are men's coveralls with shorter arms, shorter legs, and elastic in the waist. It's still not appropriate. And the trouble I find with this is that the PPE that I've asked for previously, it's not new. So my thoughts on the design, it's not new. If you look at how long we've had safety clothing for motorbikes, they zip off at the top and they zip off at the bottom so you can separate them. Now, not all of them you can buy a one piece. I personally ride motorbikes, so I have a two piece. And I have never ever struggled to get women's trousers and a woman's jacket that zip off at the waist. If I want to bring that in as PPE on an industrial site, I have to pay through the nose for it. It's not a new design. It's not a new concept. It's been around for a very, very long time. And And if you want basic overalls for men, you're looking around a £13 a pair mark. If I want the same again for a woman, it's around £60 to get ones that come off from the top and the bottom. So your absolute bare bones basic design that doesn't even have reflective qualities, you're looking at £90 for one. That's one day's worth of clothing.
Yeah.
So that's what you're up against when you're in industry and you go to your CEO and you say, I would like this please, and it's going to cost you possibly 9 times more than it would normally. You're welcome, I'll have that, thanks. And they need to feel like there's a business argument for it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately being abrasive and saying, well, it's cheaper to buy my PPE than it would be to pay for the fines that you'll incur should I be injured because my PPE is not appropriate, does not land at all. So I would not advise that to anyone.
Why do you think it's important for a woman to have a two-piece that can be separated rather than just the standard?
It's a really good question, actually. I'm really glad that you've asked that. Because we all deserve dignity in the workplace. And often this is a topic that's not thought about, but if I'm a woman wearing overalls and I need to go to the toilet, my dignity is compromised. And where I realised this was working in a college where the female college students didn't have a changing room, and they also took a long time to go to the toilet because the toilet wasn't in the right area because they never used to have women there. And they'd have these overalls on, and I experienced the same thing wearing overalls. To go to the toilet, I have to take my overalls all the way down, and then they're touching the floor of a toilet or the bottom of a toilet. I can't guarantee that that toilet's clean enough because often in women's toilets, men use them because it's not necessarily always a woman's toilet. So then I've got now contaminated overalls on that I'm going to put back on, and the contaminated bit is near my face. Or my other option is to take my shoes off, take the whole thing off, hang that up, and then I will have clothes on underneath, but I'll still feel exposed, and I might be in a cubicle next to a man, and they know I'm getting changed. And I'm not saying that man's going to do anything, but it's just like the discomfort of it.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable for you, and that's
and what am I standing on? And then I'm putting those shoes back on for the rest of the day. And if I have to use a sanitary product, that's more time to be in there sorting things out than going back to work and then being asked, why did you take so long? Whereas if I can zip them off, I could just do what I need to do like I was wearing anything else. And not to go into it too deeply, but there's a convenient hole in the pocket of coveralls for reaching things in your inner pocket for what you're wearing. But a lot of men will use that to quickly help themselves prepare to go to the toilet. And an argument I have had quite a few times is that for some aspects of going to the toilet for men and women, you both need to sit down. That's fair enough. But 9 times out of 10, you're probably going for a wee. And as a man, there's not a lot for you to organise to go for a wee. For a woman, there is. And I know everyone's giggling and it's uncomfortable. But
it's not uncomfortable.
I'm losing my dignity by going to the toilet.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in that
position. And ultimately, if I'm not correctly protected by my PPE because I'm rolling it up, I'm getting caught on stuff, I look silly, I'm losing things, I can't quite stand up straight, or when I do stand up straight, I'm going to get chafing in between my legs because the crotch is so low down that then I'm dealing with having an injury when I leave work, that I'm having to find a way of padding between my legs so I can work comfortably all day. If I have to talk about that for those purposes, then I will.
No, I think.
What do you think as well? Because many men will have like just 1 or 2, for the week, and they don't really wash it. You know how it is, they will wear the same one. I always need 2 pairs at least, because I'm a woman and anything can happen. And I feel to be comfortable, I need to make sure that I'm kind of clean, at least to a certain degree when I go on site. So I always ask for 2, and I can see that it's like, why do you need 2? Because I want 2. I need 2 pairs actually just for my week, really. And that's always an extra as well that you need to ask for.
It is, and again, it's not considered that the cycles that women go through in their lifetime. So you've got having menstrual cycles can cause all sorts of problems anyway with your PPE. But what about women that are going through menopause? And in your menopause, you're experiencing massive fluctuations in your body temperature. And so in the catering industry, they quite often now will provide more breathable PPE for women that are going through that. But if you're being quizzed, well, why do you need to? Well, because as a woman, I experience a completely different life and a completely different cycle.
And is that because it's more women are in that industry, in the catering industry, so that
Yeah,
women
that
have
makes
thought
sense.
about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like vented areas or things that they can zip off or thinner material. And this isn't everywhere, but it is becoming more and more common. But in engineering, oil and gas, renewables, we're not there yet. And that conversation's really awkward to say, well, I'm going through a menopause, or well, I have very heavy periods.
Yes, should we have to justify it?
No.
We shouldn't. That's the whole thing. We shouldn't be you shouldn't have been asked in that in that position to then after, because some people might have gone, oh, don't worry about it, I'll just take one and scurry away because they've
I'll shut up and
Exactly.
embarrassed.
You wash it quickly, try and get it dry for the next
Exactly,
morning. It's just
yeah.
extra hassle, really.
It is. And working in health and safety, your PPE is your last line of defence. It's your absolute last line of defence. And if that's not suitable, then how can I say to anyone that I work with that all of their other lines of defence are suitable if we're not getting the very, very last one right? And for me, that's a fundamental reason. We have to keep people safe and we have to give people dignity. And I've got a lot of friends who work in heavy industry who are transgender, and they're wearing men's PPE, but whilst they're transitioning into becoming a woman, and they're starting to mention problems that they're experiencing.
Right.
So we need to get in there now, because we shouldn't be putting anybody in that position.
I think that leads quite nicely into our next question, which we've sort of answered a little bit, but why is it important to have PPE designed specific? What are some of the other reasons why it's important to have PPE that's specifically designed for women?
I think, the dignity is a big thing, really. Like, already when you come to site, depending on your role, you want to be taken seriously. Like, I've been on site for years, and sometimes people won't believe it. When I come, they're like, oh, well, she the admin person, they don't really take you seriously. So if you come and your jacket is so long, my trousers are always rolled back, you look like a child, really. You don't actually look...
Like you're playing dress up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just about, it's actually to make you feel comfortable in your role as well, but for people to actually take you seriously is really important. So that's, aside from the safety element, which is number one, the other one, you need to feel good about yourself, really.
Yeah, no, I had a similar experience when I first went on site. I think it was like 2009, and I think for most sort of men on site, that was the first time they'd ever experienced like a woman on site kind of thing. So obviously you had to put up with this sort of a bit of obnoxious comments as well. But not only that, I've got like a hard hat that like literally kept slipping down, so obscuring my vision, so that's not safe. And like you said, I look like I've gone to work in my dad's, PPE.
Yeah.
It's like literally, it was like a skirt, high vis with a skirt. You could have wrapped around me twice.
Yeah.
I've got steel toe cap boots, two sizes too big, put big socks on, but I'm still like clumping along. And it's just about, people trying to take you seriously. And, it's already difficult enough in a male dominated environment. But then when, you're trying to get people to take you seriously on a level and take you for who you are and your experience, and not see you for your gender or
it undoes your integrity.
It does, exactly,
as a professional. Who is valid to be in that area. It completely just undoes it.
It undermines it, doesn't it?
Completely. And you'll have done everything the same as a man has done. And the man looks like they should be there, and then you turn up and you stand out like a sore thumb. And the only time as a woman I want to stand out in a workplace is because I'm doing very well.
Exactly.
And I think everyone can relate to that. So you want to, no matter what industry you're in, whether you wear PPE or not, you want to feel dressed and feel good about the job that you're doing. You want to feel comfortable. So I know if you've got a presentation to do, I dress maybe a little bit nicer, not to look better for the people that I'm presenting to, but I feel better about myself and more confident. And it's a lot to do with confidence, that the way that you dress, and you want to dress for the job that you're doing, and everyone can relate to that. I think,
because I think when I was out on site looking like that, I'm more sort of focused on that rather than what I should be being focused on. And I think same for many other women. We shouldn't be having to worry about it. We shouldn't be having to think about it. It should be just second nature, like it is to any man on site.
I actually don't think I would have let you go out on site. In all honesty,
Yeah.
I
You
don't
come
know
and
about
you need to come and visit one of our sites then, truly.
Like I said,
I'll come and visit him.
yeah, that was like I say 2009. So I have seen
Yes,
I
it's
have
moved
seen
on since then,
improvements.
hasn't it?
Yes, I have seen improvements. We have still got a way to go,
Yeah.
but it is going in the right direction. The improvements are slowly happening,
Yeah.
but so we are slowly heading in the right direction. Like I say, that was quite an extreme case, but yeah, I mean, probably I shouldn't have been. Probably not.
You didn't have a choice because nobody gave you it.
Yes.
And to answer your question in quite an aggressive way, well, because I exist. That's why.
Yeah.
Because I exist.
Yeah.
And actually, out of frustration, get irritated at suppliers because for supplying women's things.
Yeah.
For example, if I want to get some women's boots, so I've just started in a new company, and to get my boots, I had to order out of the region because there wasn't any in the region, and there wasn't any black ones. So I got brown ones, which is fine. I don't care as long as they're appropriate. I don't care, and they weren't pink, which was very nice because that's so hard to not get a pink lined boot. I don't understand that one. But also, there's a supplier that just industrial supply that sells women's scissors. Can anyone tell me why they're women's scissors? What would identify them as women's scissors?
Are they pink?
Yep.
Are you joking?
That is ridiculous. But then that again, that undermines us
Completely. They shouldn't sell women's scissors.
Yeah,
Imagine if they
we
give you
try
like a woman hammer. Oh, it's a finger. Seriously.
It's just
insane.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, dear.
Yeah, that's the kind of stereotypical, gender stereotyping we need to be moving away from in society.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some people are making it even worse. I mean, and like you touched on earlier, the suppliers that are out there, they will charge, 3 times the price, 4 times the price, just for a slight design, just because they can say it's ladies. Probably not that much more sort of time, cost of material has gone into that,
No, exactly.
not to justify the cost. So I think maybe some of the, not all of them, but some of the suppliers are probably exploiting the situation as well for their financial gain.
And I can understand why they would need to do it in terms of a business model. If the demand hasn't been there, then to introduce a new product, the price is going to be higher to make up for that. But part of the reason that the demand isn't there is because suppliers aren't making it easy to purchase it.
Yes.
Because companies don't want to spend 9 times more to give women PPE that's been ordered from groups of people who don't understand what it's for and why it's important.
It's a vicious circle.
It's a vicious circle.
Yes.
And one of the chats that we had was that I've worked with a PPE company that supply women's PPE, and they've done their own case studies and they've done their own publications about how amazing this PPE is that they've done, and it's bespoke and blah, blah. And I wanted one of my companies to buy it. And they said, yeah, absolutely, you can have it. But we had to pay for the tailoring cost. And not the tailoring cost as it is now to change the machine's setup, but the tailoring costs from the very beginning of that design to the design that they have now, because that's the way it works in the industry. And also in that particular area where they had that PPE, then the companies that are using that supplier don't necessarily give that women's PPE out. So they're saying that they've got it, but it's not their primary source of PPE supply.
Yeah.
And so companies are priced out. The company I work for right now, Brit Energy, I asked them for women's PPE, and I was just met with, what do you want? And we'll show you what you want, you can have it.
That's good.
And so I just got to go and just essentially get my own bespoke PPE. And I stopped and said, well, it's going to be a lot more than what you're paying currently for everybody else's PPE. And my boss was on, I got the blank stare that I hate to get, but his blank stare was, why are you questioning that? Why are you bringing that up? You should just have it.
I've already told you can get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah.
And that's
I was
fine,
like,
but it's
oh,
not,
I
it's
felt
not
like-
your usual reaction.
Writing it all down and saying, you understand the difference between that cost and that cost? Because I've never been met with, just go and get it.
No,
It's
that's
always been
really,
like, well,
really
why?
good.
Why is it that much? Can't you make do with, and can't you make do with that? And no one else has ever asked me for it. He was just almost like gobsmacked that I'd sort of gently can I get some?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Sneak that conversation
That's
in
very
there.
positive.
That's how you
But
expect it usually to go.
That's really positive.
It was.
It is.
I've not experienced that anywhere else.
That's really good.
Yeah, and especially being in the oil and gas industry wasn't really what I expected. I was quite taken back by that. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Which is another really positive from it.
Definitely.
I mean, we know that there's PPE out there and manufacturers make it and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously we've talked about some of the barriers. Is there any other barriers that you can think of? Obviously we've talked about cost and we've talked about lack of understanding. Is there any other reasons why women cannot access the PPE that they need?
I think it's just not wanting to ask, really. I mean, I've been in this situation, you know what I mean? Like, you get given something and you just, sometimes you wouldn't even think about it, you know what I mean? Be like, actually, you don't even think that there might be something fitting better. You just do it. I think it's more like most women wouldn't ask. I've been there. You start in your career, you just don't want to. And I think it's really us as women that we have been on site for a while and we gained that confidence. We should be doing it for the others, really.
Yes,
we should always make it a priority to actually let me make noise me now because I can, so that the next one.
Raise awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't realise that women-specific PPE was a thing, so I would have
Exactly.
never thought to ask for it.
Exactly.
I just, whatever's offered, I'll give what size I need and get what I get.
Or what about like maternity PPE? I think that's like
That's even it's another step. I think,
Yeah,
but I think
yeah.
So there is maternity PPE out there, but again, it's not something that's commonly found. So there's a very small amount of suppliers in the UK that do maternity PPE, and it's the same for religious PPE as well. You can get that, and you can get it in the UK, and it's made to a very high standard. But again, the amount of supplies is very, very small, and it takes actually quite a lot of Googling to find it, because then you can find the images and you can find the adverts for it, but it's who's selling it's very difficult to get to. But then you've got companies like CoverGirl, who are a Canadian company that do coveralls that open at the back, and they do coveralls that you can pleat at the front, so that you can, as you're expanding through pregnancy, you can make it fit better.
That's good.
Yeah, but again, it's like looking at a company that's in Canada. It's not here. But again, if people don't know that it exists, or don't know that there's a need, then you can't know that there's a demand for it. And I think how the PPE is designed, especially in the UK, we're using it's all derived from male-dominated policymakers, and I think that's probably by accident. I can't imagine that you can't come and be part of this, as a woman, and they can't see around corners and they can't predict things that they don't know about. And they're thinking, right, what do we need to do? Right, we need to protect the body. How do we do that? Okay, let's go, we'll do that. That's going to be the standard. But then you're not accounting for the fact that in the UK we're very, very multicultural, multinational. So that men's PPE might not actually be appropriate for somebody from a different country that has small portions, but is still a man. So these are all, it's a larger topic.
The standards are obviously lacking as well, aren't they? When were the last time they were updated, and have they been considered recently, when obviously there's all these other things to consider now?
Yeah. And I think a lot of companies will look at the EN number to what it's tested to, so where it's appropriate for, but that's where it stops. And I think we could benefit massively from having another set of standards, which is, this is suitable for like standard woman, and then you've got somebody who needs to be able to have a breathable aspect to it. All these different things, we could create a new set of standards, which makes it easily and readily accessible, so that designers and suppliers are all working to a specific standard. But at the minute, we don't have any of that. It's just that someone's come up with a really good idea and they've ran with it, which I love. But I think we could do with having a regulatory body for that.
It needs a review as well, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Everything needs reviewing. Things change and things move on, so definitely things need reviewing. And if this has not been reviewed for a while, all these things could be considered now.
And hopefully we've moved forward. Hopefully there's more women on site now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've seen. Oh, you will have seen a big change. I'm seeing a change.
Yeah, that's
certainly.
when I first started. There were just two females that worked out at the office. When I left last year, there were a lot. Not all of them were site-based roles, but there was a lot more of the site managers, technicians that went out onto site. So yeah, it's in the sort of 20 years I've been in the industry, I've seen a big shift, but it still is male dominated.
Yeah.
The men are understanding. Like yourself, I've had some really supportive male bosses. But and they out. Unfortunately, the lack of understanding, outweighs that. But it is good that there are some men out there that they either look at it from the perspective of their wife, their daughter, and they really try to advocate for us as well. And there's amazing people out there, and I think the society has shifted in this past 20 years. So I have sort of seen people speaking up. It's not quite as much of a sort of deal to ask for something, whereas back then I was saying first started I would just make do. I wouldn't think to ask. I did ask for a smaller size, and it's like, well, we might be able to get one, but it might be about 6 weeks, and then they're not on our supplier chain, and we can only do these approved suppliers, and it's not on the list. So it does exist, but it's not on the list, so I can't do it.
Yeah.
And
when you make do, I used to put like some cotton at the end of my boots.
Yeah.
Just you have to. The first one is like exactly. You have to wait 6 weeks. So it's for 6 weeks. Yeah, you do with what you have, really, or you don't go to site.
I would just have been like, well, I don't go to site.
I know. But as you raised something really good, is that men can't guess sometimes. I'm sure so many times, if I had asked, nobody would have said no to me. They would have, because they just can't think. I mean, I went through pregnancy twice on site, and I never went to ask for special PPE. But I'm sure if I had asked, they wouldn't want to say no anyway. They would have, we all say no to the pregnant woman.
Never say no to a pregnant woman.
Surely, if I had asked, I'm sure I would have got something good. But no,
You don't ask, you don't get. I think
exactly.
that's in all walks of life,
and
isn't
that's
it,
really on
It
us,
is
really, to
important
just
speak
improve.
up.
And I
we should
think
just pick up a lot more.
it's really important as well to. The message I really want to encourage here is not that we think that men are the problem or that men are doing something wrong. Because in this room, if I said to you, do you think the proportion of your hand is different to a man's, regardless of how big or small your hand is? Do you think your actual genetic makeup of your hand is different to a man's? I'd be amazed if you were all like, no, my hands are very specifically women's because we have specific proportions. But actually, our hands are different to men's. And so everything I've brought up today, it's because we are so different. And I can imagine from a designer's perspective, if I was like, right, okay, I'm a man, I'm designing some PPE, I need to make some for women. Well, what I'll do is I'll make everything really teeny tiny. Then you're going to get someone say, whoa, I don't think that's right, because that could feel really offensive. With that, we've heard in the past men suggesting that women's brains are smaller. So then we don't think the same, or we don't think as rationally and all that stuff. And that just reminds me of a man saying, I'm going to make some really small earplugs, because obviously women's heads are smaller, so their ears must be smaller. And that being met with a bit of resistance, so it depends on the receiver of that message. And I think that must be very, very difficult to navigate. And then in the same breath, I'd also like to say that women's PPE shouldn't need to be asked for. And it's just disappointing to hear that people are asking for it. In the same way I asked for it, because you don't think not to ask for it, but I wouldn't ever think to have to ask for PPE. But I did think to ask for women's PPE. But as a man, I would come to work and wait to be given it. And that's where we need to get to.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're still in this phase where we should all actually do our part and probably raise more awareness, so that the next site, actually the site manager man would ask the woman, be like, oh, please let me know what sort of PPE you want, and I will order what you, that they actually think about asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think
It's probably a vicious cycle, because people aren't aware that women's PPE exists and why it exists. So women don't ask for it at work, and it's not ordered, and the less demand there is, the less suppliers will create it, and the higher the cost. So the less likely companies are to invest in women's PPE, because that's so much more expensive.
And I think the site manager, I would be a man site manager, and I had women on my side before. they never complained. They were always happy with the PPE I provided. They didn't say anything, so why would I do anything different, really?
Yeah.
So if any suppliers are watching, can you reduce your prices and move on from that?
We need to bring out our own range. That's what we need to do. We need to.
Women's PPE designed by women.
Yes,
use
for
the
women.
PPE.
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely. That's what
That
we
makes
need to
sense.
do. Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
And no
absolutely.
pink.
yes.
No
Yes,
pink.
Exactly.
But it's not legal. It's not legal.
It's not
legal.
legal.
No.
Absolutely, it doesn't
But
conform
you
to the
still see it on
standards.
site.
You do.
I've seen it on construction sites where if one of the team forget their high vis or leave it at home or whatever, they have to wear a pink one to shame them.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So we've talked about personal experiences and the reasons for the lack of PPE available. So what do you think are some of the potential solutions? And also, I guess, what would you say to women on site maybe today who are probably experiencing some of these issues?
Well, hopefully, if people watching this podcast speak up, you know, please don't be afraid to speak up. You're not being a troublemaker. You're not causing an issue. Just, you know, you're asking for what you're entitled to, and hopefully, you know, you'll be met with the support. But yeah, please do. I think, like you were saying, if you don't do it for yourself, at least do it for
others.
For the others.
Yeah.
I've got a 7, nearly 8-year-old daughter, and you know, some of the things I'm doing for her and the younger generation, because you know that they're going to aspire to us. You know, look towards us. So if we can make their future that tiny bit better, easier, equality, you know, let's just try and do it. You know, we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for, you know, all future and current people. So, if you know, just encourage others to speak up.
And it's not going to be solved overnight.
Oh, no.
It can't be. It's too huge to just push a button and it's fixed.
Yeah.
But women who are comfortable enough, and men who are comfortable enough to be a trailblazer and insist on it, that's what's going to make the change. And I'm inspired the same way as you are. I've got a sister that's 16 years younger than me, and I can't stand the thought of her going on anywhere and not being able to just have what she would expect to be given. I used to be very quiet and nervous and shy, and that didn't help me get things that I needed. And so bang that drum, make the noise, and get in touch with other women who might be able to say it for you if you don't feel like you can do it yourself. Create groups, ask people for help. If you're not met with the response that you were hoping for, ask again, ask somebody else. It's certainly not a topic that should go away. So it's not a dirty word. It's not something that you shouldn't say. It's something that you should say and be proud to say. And if that's making the receiver uncomfortable, that's their problem. That's not your problem.
Yeah. As you said, I think it's about education. I think many men just couldn't think about it because we never raised it as an issue, and it's our fault for not raising it sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
So it's
by not
educating
saying
us.
it, you just perpetuate the cycle of just, they're happy with it, it's fine, there is no issue.
Yeah.
So it's really down to us really to educate others and to talk about it. I'm sure sometimes we'd be surprised how some other men would be really supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if they knew that actually it's a problem, they wouldn't want you to have pain in your, being pain in your legs all day long. Just that you never said it, you just put a plaster and carry on.
We only have to ask, maybe, you know.
Exactly.
So just in a simple manner. So we probably educate as well as educating the men. We need to educate each other as women. So and sort of some solidarity, you know, and.
I mean, I feel like I've learned loads today just because you know, obviously, I don't actually work on site, but listening to your experiences, they're experiences that even as a woman, I would never consider because I've not experienced them. So I think it's just about talking and sharing experiences so that you have a better understanding of the issues that people face.
Knowledge, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Share
Absolutely.
experiences and talk and be seen and
And
visibility.
look, I can't blame our line managers either. You know, they're also tied to what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
You've got to go a step further and talk to procurement teams, talk to your CEO. Your CEOs and your managing directors, they want to hear these things. And you might think, well, it's just my little voice. But your little voice is so loud to someone who wants to hear it.
So important.
Yeah, go beyond just, if your line manager's like, no, I don't think you need it. Okay. And then you go and speak to somebody else. It's not wrong to go over your line manager's head to speak to somebody because you're not dropping that person in it there's a reason that they're not going for it. And you don't know what that is, and it could be a multitude of things. So it's really important not to victimize yourself in this situation. So if you're not getting what you need, that's not because there's something wrong with you, or you've asked something that you shouldn't have asked. We've got a cultural problem, a societal problem, a supply issue, finance issues. There's loads and loads of things that go into it. So don't feel like you can't keep asking. But you just got to think, right, how does my business function? What are the teams that I need to speak to? And then speak to everybody. Because the more people you speak to, the more comfortable someone else is going to get by raising that as an issue. And then it starts becoming an issue, and it becomes a project, and you make sure that you're on that project.
Yeah, that's where we need to be in the future. That would be amazing, being able to, it's there, you don't have to be faced with, well, it's not on my list, so you can't have it.
Yeah.
It's on the list, it's there, it's what you need, and that's where we need to be.
Yeah. And I think it's important to do it for the next generations, like we're saying.
Yeah.
Because we're all quite mature in terms of we've worked in these workplaces for long enough to know now what we can and can't do, or should and shouldn't do. Whereas if you were very new or very young, you're just wanting, like you were saying, to fit in.
Yeah.
I want to fit in, and I want to represent women in this industry that I'm in, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of women in it. And it's just so exciting for me, and I feel so special to be here. And I've been in this industry now for coming up 10 years, and I still feel honoured that I've been allowed in. And I still have that ooh. And we all, to an extent, probably do with any job that we do.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't ask for something.
Yeah.
And I think we want more women in engineering, don't we?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We want more, more engineers in general, more women in engineering, especially civil engineering and just, all walks of engineering. So
Yeah, it's down to us to probably make a conscious effort that if you and I visit a site we haven't been before and there is a young woman, there's nothing wrong having a quiet chat. Are you comfortable in those shoes?
Yeah.
Is that okay? And you can get something better. And making her feel comfortable. She might be there for a work experience only 6 weeks, but this first impression that she has, you want them to love it, and you need to be an advocate for them. You need to be an ally, you need to be there. And just have a quiet chat and be like, are you comfortable? You can get something better. Do you want help? I can help,
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's all of us should just try and go out of our way sometimes to help others a bit more.
Because that could be the change of their career.
Exactly.
If they're hating it because they've not got the right provisions, but you came along and said that
And change things.
and then change things, and then that might
end up
decide
loving it.
their career path for them.
absolutely.
Just by having that positive experience.
or it's not even knowing that it's an option, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
So
Maggie, we know you've written an article, and obviously there's things out on social media. How do you get into writing articles?
So I did see someone asking generally on LinkedIn if anyone had any experiences, like negative experiences regarding women's PPE. So I just contacted them and gave them a brief overview of the sort of experience that I've had, and that I'd love to talk about it more and share my story, because I want to encourage other people. And they were really keen on that. And then this article was created, and I really enjoyed doing it because I think there's a message there about dignity and being seen. And although, as a health and safety practitioner, of course, my main interest is health and safety, I didn't realise until I was writing it how important the dignity of young women was to me, because I never got to have that dignity. And it also made me realise that from all the times that I've brought these things up and all the times that I've been ignored, that I was wrong to think that I was just making noise about nothing. I actually genuinely thought that I was just being irritating and making a big fuss out of something that nobody was bothered about. And that article has sparked something in me where I've realised that I was just talking to the wrong people. And so anyone who has an interest in it or has felt held back or pushed down or muted needs to say things about it. And it's really important not to have a negative response to the person who you spoke to, because we don't know what was going on with that person at the time. But it's certainly the more that is said, the more it normalises it. And I hate to use that term, let's normalise something. But it is something that we should feel like we can just talk about. And I guess, I could write anything on LinkedIn and write my own article just on my own page. But again, I just thought, well, who'd want to listen to me? what a load of nonsense.
Social media is very powerful, though, if you want to, for spreading information. And, obviously it receives a lot of negative, energy on social media, but it's a good place to it's a good place to spreading awareness, and you do open yourself up to negative comments and people that do disagree with you, but it's still good. It's a good place to network and to share your ideas.
Yeah, and I just want to really quickly touch on a response that I had to my article, which was from a man in the drilling industry who said, "You're not special. Men go to the toilet too." And I said, "Yeah, you do, but it's really difficult for us because of the nature of how we go." And he was really unhappy about me bringing this topic to the table. And his comments were, I think the impression I got from him is that he felt that he had to tell me these things. And actually what he was doing was he was adding weight to my argument. Because his argument was that in the 20 years he's worked in drilling, there's not really been many women. None of them have brought up their problems with PPE. And none of them have spoken to him about it. And they really struggled to recruit women in drilling. And I was like, yeah. I was like 10%. So I went and looked it up. 10% of staff involved in drilling, especially in the engineering aspect, are women. As an overarching statistic, it's like 7%. So I said to him, "Oh, well, yeah, there's only 10% in your industry. And have you ever asked them how their PPE fits?" "Well, no, because, why would I?" And he just could not fathom the fact that women needed their own PPE. And he actually said to me, the reason that there's not enough women in engineering is because it's very physical and it's very difficult. And I would like to see you manage a day of doing physical labour. And I was like, I actually said to him, "Yeah, have your people contact me, because I would do it." But having worked in industries where there's a lot of physical labour, men come in all shapes and sizes and fitness levels.
Of course.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Women.
Yeah,
So,
as women. And when I was training out manual handling to the guys in the gas plant, one of the biggest things I would say to them is, if you can't carry 2 cylinders, one in each hand, then you don't carry 2 cylinders. You carry 1 cylinder. I don't care how long it takes you. Production don't care how long it takes you. You do not hurt yourself at work. So if I go into drilling and I can't do the physical labour aspect as quickly or efficiently as the man next to me, there might be another man next to him who can do it better than him. Why does it matter?
Yeah,
It doesn't.
definitely.
What matters is I'm not held back by the clothes that I'm wearing at work.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And I mean, that guy seemed to raise a point on it's difficult for him to go to the toilet as well. Why would it be a bad thing for
Everyone
all
to have
PPE?
Yeah.
Why would it be a bad thing if it's highlighted by a woman that this is needed? That if it then...
And look, how much is it going to cost to add a zip to our poppers?
And you're not taking anything away from him. You're not taking anything away from them by asking for more for yourself. It's actually going to help them too.
Because you could see that and go, like what you just said, "Oh, I love that. I wish my PPE had that, because actually it would help me with A, B, C, D, E."
Exactly.
Definitely.
Lots of men have health issues as well that they might actually...
Oh my God, absolutely.
It's probably worse for them. It's so taboo for them to probably talk about their own health issues. That it's actually, it's actually probably a bigger issue for men with health issues on site.
Exactly.
They can benefit from us,
You're not taking away.
More for everyone.
Exactly.
More for everyone.
That's
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, social media is definitely they go, because so many times we are the only woman on site. So you feel it's your issue, nobody else. You don't have anyone else to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's true.
So now knowing that, actually you have the same problems. So you can, you go for coffee, you have a chat, and she gives you some tips, etc. It's so important to connect, really.
Yeah.
And discuss it.
And creating spaces like this where you can talk about your experiences and be honest and open and not be met with judgment no matter what your different experiences are. I think that's really important as well for everyone. So
Thank you so much, everyone. This has been absolutely brilliant. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I've learned so much as well. Hopefully all our listeners.
It's been so good. It's been really, really good.
It's been fabulous. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Thank you to everyone who has joined us at home for our very first episode of the Engineering Exchange. Thank you to our amazing guests for sharing your thoughts. Please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel for more content coming soon. Thanks.